It's alive. Oh, it's alive. It's alive. It's alive. It's alive. Oh, in the name of God. Now I know what it feels like to be God.
Hello, friends and fiends. Welcome back to Blood and Guts HHN for another creature feature. And we got a special one for you tonight. With me, as always, is Mad Matt. How's it going, Matt?
I'm excited tonight, Evil Adam,
Why's that?
because we're getting ready to talk about something that's near and dear to both our hearts, and it's our top 10 favorite vampire movies.
That's right. We've picked 10 vampire movies. Now, this is not a particular ranking of those, because usually when you do a ranking, 10 would be the worst and 1 would be the best. These are just 10 vampire movies that we've each individually selected that we think are awesome. We think they're worth your time and attention if you've seen them. If you haven't, maybe go back and give a revisit to some of these. But these are, just some of our top 10 vampire movies of all time. And we will probably follow this up down the road with another list of, 10.
Because there's so many.
We could do lists and lists on this. But 10 through 20 will probably be the next list down the road. But go ahead and kick us off, Mad Matt. What's your 10 spot favorite vampire movie?
Well, number 10 for me would have to be the movie Subspecies.
Okay.
And if anybody grew up in the 80s and the 90s, they know of Full Moon Pictures, and they know the independent filmmaking on this. So it was directed by Ted Niccolo, who also worked on Texas Chainsaw Massacre, so he knew how to get a lot with a budget.
Yep.
But what I love about this movie is Anders, if I pronounce it correctly, Anders Hove, who played Radu, just does a fantastic job as that vampire, and the look of him with the long fingers, the long hair, just the sunk-in eyes and the fangs. It just looks amazing. And the director does a great job in this movie with setting the atmosphere, and he films a lot on location in Romania and a lot of the European countries, so you get those castles. So it's almost like a throwback to the old Hammer horror films, and you got great blood and gore.
Yep.
Just a lot that this movie has to offer. So if you haven't seen it, I definitely recommend you check it out. It not only had this one had the first movie, it spawned a franchise where it's got 5 movies in total, plus a spin-off called Vampire Journals. So definitely check it out. How about you?
Well, my number 10, and like we said, this is just still awesome, is The Night Flyer.
That's a good one.
Based on the short story by Stephen King. It's got the great late Miguel Ferrer in that. And he plays a seedy, he's doing his great seedy character. You've seen him in RoboCop as a seedy character. He's doing a seedy reporter who's on the trail, who also thinks that he may be losing his mind. And he's on the trail of what he believes to be a vampire who has a pilot's license.
Right.
So it's a crazy Stephen King story. It's a good short film. Came out in 97 here, and it's a good little weekend watch. Not very long.
I love the reveal of the vampire when you finally see him and stuff, man. That looks amazing.
And that scene when they encounter each other is I'm not going to spoil anything here in case you haven't seen it, but it's a good classic. So check it out, The Night Flyer.
Okay, I'm gonna throw it right back to you then, Evil Adam. What do you have as your ninth favorite vampire flick?
My ninth is Shadow of the Vampire from 2000, and that has legendary cast. Malkovich is in it. Willem Dafoe is in it. Our great comedian friend, you know who I'm talking about. Eddie Izzard.
Eddie Izzard. I know Carrie Elwes. Carrie Elwes was the next name.
Carrie Elwes is in there, and it's a kind of a lore spinoff of Max Schreck. What if he really was a vampire in the F.W. Murnau film Nosferatu? And if you haven't seen this one, it's just a great. It's got some comedy. It's got some horror. It's got some kind of like leaves you wondering at the end.
What's he going to do to that script girl?
He'll eat her later. Oh yeah.
But no, I'm with you. That's always been it didn't make my list, but I'm like you. I do love that one a lot. And like I said, Willem Dafoe just does a fantastic job in that movie, so it's definitely a great choice.
Oh yeah.
For my number 9, I got to go with John Carpenter's Vampires, and I love the story. I love James Woods as Jack Crow, Thomas Ian Griffith playing Valak the vampire, and he just for so many years I didn't even realize that he was the dude from Karate Kid 3, because to me he's just Valak the vampire.
Yeah.
But John Carpenter, like it's just like a gritty Western type feel of a movie. It's not like your typical vampire movie, and the violence in it is just like over the top. Like whenever he first shows up to the hotel, the
He
vampire
slaughters at the hotel.
yeah, splits them in half and then slaughters everybody, and just the way
The
he
Sun
filmed it.
God Hotel is the name of the hotel. The Sun God.
And the way Jack Crow treats the Padre throughout the film, like I said, just so you got good comedy there.
Yep.
I can't remember which Baldwin brother it is off the top of my head, but it plays
I think
Montoya.
it's Stephen. I want to say, but I might be wrong.
I think
about
you're
that.
right.
I think it is Stephen.
Does a fantastic. That's for Stephen Baldwin. That's my favorite movie that he's in, Vampires. So,
Yeah.
great blood and gore, great story. So if
Mm-hmm.
you've not checked this one out, like I said, do yourself a favor and watch it quickly.
Oh yeah, yeah. So kicking it. What number are we on now?
We're on number eight.
Number 8. That's
You want
right.
to stick with me?
Yeah, go ahead. Fire off a number 8.
Number 8, I got the Hammer horror film, Horror of Dracula.
Yeah.
And I've always loved this one as a kid. My brother, he's really into the Hammer horror films, so I got to watch a lot of these growing up. And this is one that's on my list. It's the only one that I don't have. I was talking to you about, so I don't get to watch it as much as I'd love to. But I love Peter Cushing as Van Helsing in this movie.
Yeah.
I love Christopher Lee as
Some
Dracula.
heavy hitters in this film.
Absolutely, and Christopher Lee does so much with so little dialogue in this movie. It's just about his eyes, the way he carries himself.
Yep.
And then Terrence Fisher's direction in this movie, just the way he films everything, the locations, kind of like when I was talking about with Subspecies. You just feel like you're in your typical, like not your typical, but the gothic horror film that you want to see. And you got like the vampiresses, they're wearing the white dresses and stuff, just stuff you always love seeing growing up.
Yep.
And what's iconic to me is I love the finale. It's a 56. It's about almost 70 years old movie now, so 65 years old, give or take. But the ending of this movie, where they're fighting in the castle, and then Van Helsing just runs and grabs the curtains, Haynes yanks them off, and then kills Dracula with sunlight, has just always been iconic for me. Love it, love it.
Classic.
So throwing it back over to you, what do you have for your number 8?
Number 8 for me is the 1996 classic From Dusk Till Dawn. Just because it's Tarantino, it's Rodriguez, it's got a great cast. Harvey Keitel is in this. Quentin Tarantino himself, George Clooney is in this.
Trejo.
Danny Trejo is in this. Selma Hayek is in this. You can go on and on about this cast, but it's got everything you need. It's got action, horror, comedy. It's just one of those weekend movies.
Yeah.
Like if you're just bored and you go, I don't know what I'm going to watch this weekend, but I want something spicy.
Yeah.
Put this on. And it's a classic. So
Absolutely.
some great makeup by you got Tom Savini here, Greg Nicotero also making cameos. It's a good staple. So.
Well, we'll keep it with you then this time. What do you have as number 7?
Number 7 I got is 2014's What We Do in the Shadows, starring some of the guys from the Flight of the Conchords.
Right.
It's a great indie film that I'm sure everybody's probably at least heard of the show, but that comes from this. They even make a reoccurring appearance in the show.
Right.
So this is just a classic.
Got a lot of great comedy.
A lot of comedy, but there's also some horror elements
Yeah.
in it, and there's some horror elements where they call back to other films like Lost Boys and different types of horror films in this. And then when that scene where they're in a nightclub and nobody will dance with them, and all this kind of stuff. It's just some good comedy from New Zealand. So definitely check that out, What We Do in the Shadows. If you haven't seen the film, if you've only seen the show, definitely check out the film.
Absolutely. Well, for my number 7, I got 30 Days of Night.
Oh, yeah.
And for this one, it just hit me at the right age when it came out. I was in college. I love the casting. I love Josh Hartnett. I should have wrote down the actor's name, but the one that plays like the standoffish guy that's in Batman Begins. I have to get a picture of him to throw up there for the audience. You'll know who I'm talking about. But I love the vampires and how Sam Raimi originally wanted to direct it, but he didn't have the time, but he did produce it. And I can't recall the director's name off the top of my head, but he does a fantastic job. I love how they went with the vampires having their own language.
They got their own language, which they created.
Yes, and they just created just for the movie. And just the thought of being in Alaska for a whole month with no sunlight. So you're there's nowhere you can go to escape them except hopefully like hold down for those 30 days. And like I said, that story in itself is just fantastic.
And it's based on the graphic novel.
Yes,
and that graphic novel is
awesome.
It's awesome.
If you
Very
haven't
good
read it.
artwork in that. So.
And it's like I said, so if you hadn't seen it, definitely check it out. But one other thing I love about this movie is the brutality of the vampires. They're like,
Oh, yeah.
For example, you got this one girl out screaming and begging for help, and they're just using her to try to bait people into their trap. And you can see them up on the rooftops just jumping
They're
around.
predatory.
fantastic. So
Great.
if you haven't seen it, definitely check out 30 Days of Night.
Oh yeah.
So sticking with me, then I'm gonna hog the limelight real quick and stick for number 6. I have the classic 1931 film Dracula. And like we kind of touched on this in one of our earlier videos when we kind of pitted him against Frankenstein, but this is always been one of my favorite vampire movies. It was one of the first ones I watched growing up. Like I said, watched a lot of Universal movies. It's one every Halloween I don't go without watching. I love this, like the atmosphere of it. Like I love Bela Lugosi. I love how for me, he is the quintessential Dracula that everybody's kind of often imitated but never duplicated.
Right. Oh yeah, it's hard to fill those shoes.
Right, exactly. And he's got Dwight Fry's. It's the same with Dwight Fry playing Renfield. He does the exact thing. Like everybody's imitating his performance, but he does a fantastic job in it. Edward von Sloan is Von Helsing. And for me, you got the iconic lines like you got "Children of the night."
Aren't you drinking? Yeah.
And then like you're a very wise man for someone who's lived but a single lifetime.
Right.
And so
Yeah.
love, like I said, just absolutely adore this film. Like I said, I do think other Universal movies itself were better, but Lugosi is just what carries this flick for me.
Oh yeah.
So how about you, Adam? What do you have for number 6?
Number 6, I have 1967's The Fearless Vampire Killers, or pardon me, Your Teeth Are in My Neck, by Roman Polanski directed this one, and it is a slapstick comedy. I feel like I can't remember the actor's name that plays the Professor Van Helsing character. He's not. I don't think he's named Van Helsing, but he looks to me. When I watched the first time I saw this film, he looks just like a skinnier version of Albert Einstein.
Right.
And he's the bumbling professor. Like he's coming in with to kill you with the stake, but it's backwards, and he has to tell him, "Hey, professor, turn it around, turn the stake around." And there's all these great comedic scenes in this. The late great Sharon Tate is also in this. And if you're looking for a good little horror romp that just is a slapstick over the top comedy about vampires, you're gonna dig this one.
It's a shame, like I said, because this one is a great flick, and it's one I've not watched in many years, and it's just because it's hard to find.
It is hard to find.
And that's what's the crying shame about that one, like I said, because that's a fantastic film.
Yeah.
Kicking it back to you, then, what do you have for your number 5?
Number 5, I have Stakeland from 2010. This is a great film. It's a bit of an indie, but it did win some awards at the Toronto International Film Festival. And this one takes your kind of like zombie apocalypse style tale and spins it with what if there was a vampire apocalypse, and in the wasteland there are 2 survivors. There's a rugged man who almost has no name.
Right.
That they call him Mister. That's his name.
So kind of like a homage to Eastwood.
Yeah. And he saves a little boy's life from his parents who have just been turned. So the little boy, he doesn't know how to react. He's like, what? He doesn't even know what he's just witnessed.
Right.
So he saves the little boy, and he takes him under his wing to train him how to kill vampires, and they set off across this apocalyptic wasteland inhabited by vampires. Really good film. There's a sequel too that carries on the legacy with the original actors returning. So that's a really good sequel as well. But I think you'll find, I was watching this with a buddy of mine one day, and we put it on, and we're pleasantly surprised with this. And we were also pleasantly surprised with the sequel. So if you're looking for a good unknown vampire film that you may have never seen, check out Stakeland. So
okay. Yeah, that's one that's on my list. I hadn't had a chance to watch it, but I know you have nothing but praise for it.
And once you watch it, you're gonna call me up and say, "Man, this was awesome. Now I got to do part 2."
Right.
So,
well, for me, then number 5 is the classic Salem's Lot from 1979, the miniseries that Tobe Hooper directed. And for this one, like I said, you hear me talk a lot about atmosphere. I love, like when I'm watching a vampire flick, I really want that atmosphere. Like, I want the fog. I want like like almost not like, because this one don't really have vampires, but you have like the vampire underlings under Mr.
Barlow.
Barlow, thank you. I had it written down because I always slips my mind. But I love the look of the vampires in this one. Like I hate to think how much those contact lenses hurt, because in '79
there's footage and there's interviews where he talks about how big of a pain in the ass it was to pull that look off.
I don't doubt it. But like I said, I love the makeup, the iconic scenes of the brother trying to talk his little brother into letting him, like, let me in,
Let
just
me
tap
in,
on the
floating
window.
on the window.
Yeah.
Gave many people nightmares.
Oh, it did me. That's one of the few movies that just creeped me out as a kid, because I'm like, what would you do in that situation? Because you wouldn't want to think your brother is going to come in here and hurt you. So like that really it tugs on the heartstrings, because you know his brother's gone. He's a vampire. But at the same time, you can kind of relate to the little kid who's like, that's my brother. We've been looking for him tonight. Let me let him in. And like I said, just a lot of good makeup. Like I love the one scene where Barlow wanted the priest. He's like, won't you priest, faith for faith.
Yep.
And just that standoff there, and the whole beginning of the movie where like kind of like you're already towards the end, is like they're coming for us. They know we're here.
Yep.
Just a lot of good stuff to pull out from this movie. And so, I mean, if you haven't seen, I know they got the remake coming out this year. I'm worried that it's not going to be as good, because Warner Brothers is foregoing a theatrical release and just going to release it straight to streaming.
Right.
So I'm crossing my fingers, because I know William Sadler's in it, and he's a very good actor. So I'm hoping good things for that remake coming up.
Yeah, and I'll go a step further too. I like the miniseries they did with Rob Lowe
I hadn't had a chance to watch
and
that
Rutger
one.
Hauer as the. Spoiler alert: Rutger Hauer is the vampire. It's got Donald Sutherland. It's got Rutger Hauer. It's got Rob Lowe. It's got, look up the list. It's got several heavies that
Right.
really good. And I thought it was it's.
Would you have put it on par, or do you still like the original one better?
I like the original better, but I also like this one because it kind of modernizes it just a little bit. So.
Right. That's understandable. It's always good. Like I said, I know normally like a remake, for some reason it's always a lot more misses than there are hits. So to hear that wanted to hit good, if I ever see that out,
it's worth a watch.
Okay. Well, sticking with me then, I got number 4. It's one we've already had on this list before. I got From Dusk Till Dawn.
Yep.
And everything you said earlier, like, is why I like it. A lot of people are turned off by the movie, though, because the shift in tone. Like, you have like a regular Tarantino movie until they get to the titty twister, and then it kind of turns into a vampire flick then. So for some people, that jar of tone kind of takes them out of the movie. Not for me, because I love. I think it comes from the fact that I love Tarantino. I love Rodriguez. And like I said, it's perfectly cast. Like George Clooney, this is the one for me that really, I'm like, you know what? He is going to be a great actor, because I watched ER a little bit, never really got into that show. I think this was before Batman and Robin, so like that didn't taint anything for me yet. But this one here is like, man, this guy here is a cool cat. I love the arm sleeve tattoo he had and come up there, and
Harvey Keitel shines in this one.
He's amazing, shines. And like Tarantino is just crazy in this movie.
Yeah, as usual.
Yeah, exactly. He's still got that foot fetish and stuff. So it's like you see that meme, and it is hilarious. You think about you're writing your own script to have some Hayek put her foot in your mouth just because he has that much of a foot fetish.
To drink tequila off of.
And one thing we didn't touch on too is KMB effects.
KMB effects.
That's what makes this movie too, like the special effects. And if, friends and fiends, if you ever get a chance to watch the behind the scenes and just see everything that goes into making everything you see on screen, like I know they had the one, like it's a whole feature film called Full Tilt Boogie, where it's behind the scenes of From Dusk Till Dawn.
Tom Savini's in that as well.
Sex Machine.
Yep.
So it's like I say, it's a fantastic movie. I highly recommend it. And if you haven't watched it, I would avoid the sequels. I'll just be honest with you. The first one's amazing.
Right.
How about you? What you got for number 4?
Number 4, I got a heavy 1988 Fright Night 2.
Ooh.
Fright Night 2. And I don't need to explain it very much. I'm sure you probably have already seen it. And if you haven't, what are you doing? Please go watch it. You know, we've got the addition of several new characters in this one. So it's a pickup of Fright Night, the original. And it's Roddy McDowell's back.
I love Roddy McDowell.
It's a classic.
I would add more, but I have a feeling we might see it on my list too.
Yep.
So
all I'm going to say is the scene when he sees the little plastic fangs in the bowl. He's like, it's plastic.
It's a party.
It's a party. Yeah. So go check out Fright Night 2 if you have not done so already.
Sticking with you then, was that your number 4?
That was my number 4.
What do you have for your number 3?
My number 3 is right before that, Fright Night from 1985.
Oh, okay. 1-2 punch.
1-2 punch, Fright Night. It's a classic Hitchcock style.
Like Rear Window.
Yeah, like Rear Window. It's a whodunit, but the vampire is the one whodunit, and you kind of know that.
Right.
And
Boy Who Cried Wolf.
The Boy Who Cried Wolf. They don't believe him. If you haven't seen it, just do yourself a favor. Directed by Tom Holland, starring Chris Sarandon, Roddy McDowall. Oh man, it is a heavy Mike Tyson punch 1-2. Go watch it immediately. Stop after this video.
Yeah, of course.
And then go watch it. So.
For me, for number 3, I've got Near Dark. And this is a movie that's just been near and dear to my heart. It was a movie that I actually watched when I was a little kid, and I did not know the name of the movie. I just remember the vampires, and I remember how I had that Western feel.
Oh, it's a Western.
And Bill Paxton and Lance Henriksen. But for years, I never knew the name of the movie because my copy on VHS, where I record off HBO, I started like 5 minutes
You
into
didn't know what it was. You didn't write it down.
And so when I was probably about 14 or 15, when I went to my video store, I seen on video cassette, I was like, that's the movie.
That's the one.
And had to grab it. And so, like, just talking about Catherine Bigelow does a fantastic job.
Director of Point Break. And,
Yep.
Strange Days.
Hurt Locker.
Hurt Locker. Remember Strange Days?
Yep.
Ralph Fiennes in that one.
Oh, man. Like I said, she's a fantastic director.
Oh, yeah.
And like I said, you got Lance Henriksen, Bill Paxton, Jeanette Goldstein, from like all three of them from Alien. So she basically just took Cameron's
Terminator as well.
Yeah. And so for me, the one thing I want to talk about, and then I'll hit you with my number 2, is I love the bar scene. That's the whole scene that sets the movie. And like I said,
they come walking in.
like I said, if I tell anybody about that movie and they never seen it, I was like, you've got to see the scene where they enter the bar and how they torture everybody and just almost like playing with their food.
Yeah, exactly.
But moving right along then, for my number 2, I kind of cheated with this one, Friends and Fiends, and I'm not ashamed to say I did because I have Fright Night Part 1 and Part 2.
Part 2, he's combined them.
Yeah, because I love both these movies so much, I just could not do a clear-cut winner. And anytime I watch the first one, boom, I'm popping in the second one to finish it as well.
Yep.
And it's the things you said to me is like same things you said is like it's the boy who cried wolf, the Rear Window aspect Hitchcockian, and you can't get nobody to believe him. Even Peter Vincent himself doesn't believe him at first until he sees the reflection in his mirror. And for
great scene.
For both films, for me, that's what carries me is that relationship between Charlie and Peter Vincent. And that's where the remake, for me, like I said, I can watch the remake and take it for what it is, but that's where, to me, they got it all wrong, was that relationship.
Yeah, that remake was lacking a lot. We won't get into that right now. We might cover that down the road, but yeah, the remake kind of left a sour taste in my mouth.
Right. And so, like you said, Tom Holland done a fantastic job writing that script. Then kind of talking about Part 2, I think Tom Lee Wallace of Halloween 3 Season of the Witch fame and the It miniseries does a fantastic job with that sequel. It's one of the rare times where I still think the first one is above that sequel. It's above it,
but you can still watch it and it's still right there, even though a different director has done it. That's a rare feat, y'all. And this is a rare thing in Hollywood to pull off.
And I hate the fact they had all the release issues with that one where it didn't make as much money as the first one because if it hadn't been for the Menendez killings and stuff.
Right, then we would have a Part 3.
Yeah, we'd have a Part 3 because if you have a chance to watch your So Cool Brewster, they were meeting that day to discuss Part 3 when all that happened.
Yep.
So Fright Night 1 and 2, like I said, ever since I could crawl, I've been watching those movies, and like I said, they've made such an impact on me as a child. And like I said, even now, my kids love both these movies too, and so it's something I've been able to pass down to them. And like I said, just fantastic film. Like the special, we didn't really touch it. The special effects, even on both of them, are fantastic.
Oh gosh, yeah.
I know Boss Film worked on it. They worked on Ghostbusters.
Oh yeah.
And Steve Johnson kind of cut his teeth in these early films. Like he's a fantastic special effects guy. So just a lot of treats in both of these movies.
Yeah, do yourself a favor if you haven't seen that.
Absolutely. So I'm gonna kick it over to you then, Adam. What's your number 2?
My number 2, you've spoke on it, 1987's Near Dark. Like you say, it's a Western. And yes, there are. I feel like it's great because they're kind of the protagonists, but you root for them. But yet the greater protagonist in the whole film is Sunlight.
Yeah.
Because that's the whole thing is and no spoilers. I mean, sorry if you haven't seen it, but you know that's the big thing. You're a vampire, and the big number one thing, the number one killer, sunlight. So they're blacking out windows with spray paint, and the sun's just about to come over the horizon. They're throwing curtains up. They're wrapping up in blankets. They're spray painting the window. You know, it's and it's got some scenes where you want them to you're like, please cover it up, do it. You know, you got to survive, and it's just a great film. If you haven't seen it, I highly recommend it. Near Dark.
I'm with you. Like I said, I spoke about earlier, and one thing I forgot to mention too. One thing about this one, it was kind of controversial at the time, but if you read Bram Stoker's Dracula, they kind of hint, or not hint, they show that there's a cure to vampirism by doing blood transfusions.
Yep.
And like I said, I thought it's something I hadn't seen before, so I thought was a good touch.
Oh yeah.
One thing I forgot to mention too is like Bill Paxton's makeup.
Bill Paxton is great in this.
He is.
His whole character is phenomenal, and all of them are phenomenal, especially Lance Henriksen too. But if you haven't seen this, definitely give it a watch, Friends and Fiends.
Absolutely. I'm gonna stick with you then. Let us know what your number one vampire flick is.
Number one, with a bullet or with a stake, is Lost Boys, 1987's Lost Boys. And I don't think I need to really say much about it. It's an icon. It's steeped into pop culture. It's steeped into music. It's steeped into everything that you know if you're a horror fan. What more can we say about it? It's the Lost Boys.
I'm gonna piggyback right off of you because that's my number one film too, and
All
it's a movie where no matter how it's come out, VHS, standard DVD, 2-disc DVD, Blu-ray, 4K, every version I've bought it because it's like not only is it my favorite vampire movie, it's one of my favorite movies in general of all time.
Right.
The cast is perfect. You got Jason Patric, Corey Haim, Feldman, Kiefer. Jameson Newlander, which he's the only one from Frog Bros, but like I said, Jamie Gertz. I used to have a huge crush on Jamie Gertz growing up.
Oh yeah.
Diane Waste.
This is one that I feel like you can watch. If you're a true horror fan, you can watch it summer, winter, fall, spring. It doesn't matter. You can pop it on. If you just want a feel-good movie going on in the background that you can just quote the lines and feel good about it while you're vacuuming the floor or whatever you're doing, chores, this is it.
It is, and
it's beautiful.
Like I said, and it's got so much rewatchability, like you're talking about, because I can watch this pretty much every day, and I never get tired of it.
Never.
And like Joel Schumacher done a fantastic job, like especially like the cinematography of the movie, the colors in the movie,
the lore. It's like the Peter Pan story almost. Yeah, great.
Beautifully shot, special effects. Again, I can't think of the top of my head who done the special effects for this movie, but just the small details.
That was Greg Canham.
Okay.
Yep.
And just the small details of putting the teeth.
The teeth forward and do the forehead prosthesis where the forehead prosthetic kind of comes out just a little bit. Yes, Greg Canham. This was his. I don't know if it was first or second, but I'm thinking this was his first makeup job. And if you watch the behind the scenes, he's like, please just let me get this job. Please let me get this job.
I love it because I've seen those too. Because he's talking about how people thought it took forever to do because it was so simple. He goes, the worst part about it is just wearing the contacts because they can only wear them for like 5 minutes at a time before drying their eyes.
And for a first timer to cut his teeth, so to speak, doing this film,
pun intended,
he knocked it out of the park.
Absolutely. So I mean, there you have it, friends and fiends. That's our top 10 vampire movies. Like, let us know in the comments what's your top 10. Do you disagree with anything? Do you have different films in there? Let us know why. We'd like to hear. And as always, make sure you like and subscribe and share this video.
Yep. And like we said, down the road, we're going to do a follow-up. It'll probably be going back from 10 to 20.
Right.
And we're going to throw some more at you just because we when we narrowed down the list, we had additional pages.
Yeah.
So, but we just want to throw some really good ones at you that if you haven't seen, definitely check them out. And if you have seen them, give them another watch, and maybe it'll trigger some good thoughts there for you. But
yeah, hopefully we're hoping this video has maybe triggered something in you. If you hadn't seen these movies, like I said, seek them out, give them a watch, and like I said, let us know what you think.
Totally. And as always, remember, blood and guts.